the corner. Hyman without a stick. Ready to start on the pass to Quad. Block. Leafs get it again. Matthews to center. And the Miami scores! Holy Mackinaw, they're going to the playoffs.
Created by Die-Hard Leafs fans for Die-Hard Leafs fans. This is the Holy Mackinaw podcast with Clayton Theriault, Danny Hawtin, and Brett Wills.
Welcome, everybody, once again to the Holy Mackinaw podcast. I'm joined once again by Bretzky and GM Hawtin, and here we go again, Leafs fans. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't think Sheldon Keefe knows what to say. I don't think Dubas knows what to say. But what an absolute embarrassment the Leafs have been last week. But we will start with the Rangers game, which I thought we played unbelievable. I mean, we had almost twice the shots New York did. Somehow, Shesterkin absolutely robbed us all game. We got a point in overtime, but that was pretty much it. I'll go to you first, Danny. How did you feel about at least the effort against the Rangers?
Oh, the Rangers game was a fantastic game, way different than where we are now. But I guess going back to that Ranger game, that was full marks, pretty much full effort. They were all over them. Shesterkin played amazing. He stole the show. What can you do, But full effort. There was attention to detail, both in the D zone and the O zone. So many opportunities. I guess the only criticism, and Sheldon said it after his press conference after the game, he said the only thing that they didn't do was put more traffic to the net because Shesterkin was getting into position. He was seeing pucks and able to make the saves. But other than that, you can't be mad. I remember I went to bed that night and I just was, my God, they deserve the win. They played great. Some nights you get out goaltended, right? So I don't know how the hell we went from that game to where we are now, but we'll get into that.
Yep, we'll get there soon. Brett, going back a little bit, but how did you feel about the Rangers game?
I think I used the term last week. It hurts so good. And I feel like that's going to be the theme of the entire year. Kudos to the Rangers. The goaltending, wow, he played amazing. He honestly, he stole some points away from us. But you come out of that game thinking that things are going to be so good. This is the start of the hill that we're climbing, and like I just said, it hurts so good because it hurts so good.
That's about all you can say. I mean, I thought it was a great game. I thought all systems were firing. It's just the goalie robbed us, and I thought that was going to be the start of something good. But clearly, as we saw the last few games, that is not where we are. So we'll move ahead to San Jose, which is a game I was at. I didn't feel like it was a terrible game, but there was no organization. It was like in the first, it was end to end for both teams. I thought it was dead even. And then in the second, the Leafs kind of just fell apart. And it was like just some weak goals by Hutchinson. I felt we discussed this earlier in the week that he should have had at least two of those. One, especially right off the sideboards with no screen, goes right through Hutchinson. And then the third, it was just too big of a mountain to climb. And Danny, I'll go over to you again. What did you think about the San Jose effort?
Yeah, the San Jose game, that one was kind of frustrating, right? Because it's the first half of a back-to-back. They had, I think, three full days off before the game. You feel like you're going to get the best effort possible. They know they're playing in front of Michael Hutchinson due to the injury of Peter Mrazek. Or the team should know by now. Obviously, there's a reason why Michael Hutchinson is a third-string NHL goaltender. He's not as good, so you're going to have to play tighter defense in front of him. And for whatever reason, we go from that Rangers game where there's full effort, full out, like Brett touched on. It looked like the start of something really good, and they're going to have a real hot start to the season, and they're ready to play. And then, like you mentioned, Clay, as well, they weren't horrible, but their attention to detail and full effort certainly wasn't there. They left stuff to be desired, right? There's more to be desired in that game. But all in all, I think the San Jose Sharks, I think you have to credit them in the game. I thought they did a masterful job defensively, keeping the Leafs out onto the perimeter. And the Sharks are a hot team right now. They're playing well. They gave Boston a run for their money the other night in Boston too. So, it's whatever. It is what it is. But after that San Jose game, you knew you're going to have a back-to-back. You were going into Pittsburgh. No Crosby, no Malkin, no Rust, no Letang, no Jeff Carter. And we'll get into that next. But man, oh man, I'm just shaking my head because I can't wait to comment on the situation that we're in now, because it is just beyond embarrassing to be a Leaf fan and frustrating as hell at the lack of consistency with this group and the attention to detail. It just pisses me right off as a Leaf fan.
Absolutely. And I think we can all agree. And Brett, we'll go over to you for the Sharks. Again, what did you think?
Somebody needs to remind the guys in that dressing room that in order to win a hockey game, you have to play a full 60 minutes. You can play a good 20 minutes. You can have a really shitty 20 minutes in the middle. But if you have a really shitty 20 minutes in the middle, you better hope to God when you step on the ice in the third period that you're going to come out balls blazing. Because it wasn't there. And again, like Danny said, hats off to the San Jose Sharks. In my opinion, they have the best young defense in the league. And I know they've got Brent Burns and they've got Carlson there who are just about ready to sail off into the sunset. But they have some good young talent on their back end. And it showed. It really, really showed. I think that they've got probably, if not the third best defenseman in the young defenseman under 25 in the Western Conference. He's top 5 in Mario Ferraro. He's a good, solid hockey player. He chips in as much as he does. He's a really good hockey player, and I'm not just saying that. I actually have a history with Mario Ferraro. I saw him play Tier 2 hockey, and then I followed him at UMass. Really good kid. I didn't think he was going to go anywhere when he was playing Tier 2. He was too small and he was cocky. But it was a disappointment. But I'm honestly, I'm not surprised that San Jose wanted it more.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I thought that, I mean, there was some good hitting by the Leafs. That was one thing that I appreciated, is they were throwing checks for once. And again, not enough of a full effort though. And I say it time and time again, nearly isn't enough. It's the NHL, and you got to fucking do it to win. And if you don't, well, you're going to get embarrassed. But yeah, so after that we had Pittsburgh and 7-1. Like, what an embarrassment that was. Like, it was just, they're missing 5 of their top 6 players. Like, the majority of the roster was an AHL roster. And like, I was just embarrassed. Like, I'm not going to lie. When it was 6-1, I changed it. I couldn't watch it anymore. I watched the highlights after and just couldn't get anything going. I turned it back for when Simmons got in the fight, and the only 2 people that gave a shit in the Leafs dressing room that whole game, I thought, were Simmons and Spezza. And like, if your fourth line is the line that is producing and trying the hardest, you have an issue. And I can't say enough about Jason Spezza. I don't think any of this is on him. That fourth line was the only line that even tried. And I just really felt like nobody had it. Our top 4 didn't have it. Our power play was horrendous. The 2 power plays we had, just embarrassing. But Danny, like, where do we begin on this one?
That game was just an absolute embarrassment. And you know what it reminded me of? And they actually showed it on the broadcast. You remember, I think it was it a year and a half prior, whenever they were in Pitt last, very similar, or sorry, it would have been 2 years ago, because Mike Babcock was still the coach. I think it was over 2 years ago when Mike Babcock was still the coach. Similar point during the season. They go into Pitt and they laid an absolute egg, and Pittsburgh hammered them. And that was that famous where that the young kid with his sister, they took the selfie or whatnot. It was classic Leafs meme. It was fantastic, but literally it was that game all over again. There is absolutely no excuse in the world for that effort in that game. Saturday night, hockey night in Canada. How do you not get up for that? You didn't play well the night before. It just makes no sense to me. And this is the concerning part for me. We've seen this before. This isn't anything new, right? This is the 6th year of these core players. John Tavares, third or fourth year. I think it's the start of the 4th year with John. But these core players have been together long enough. And, you've touched on Jason Spezza, you've touched on Wayne Simmons. You know what? Like, I have really no issue with the 3rd and 4th line thus far. There's a few defensive cues. I think the whole team is lacking defensively, but that is the real concern to me, though, is those core forwards. Where the hell are they? And it's like they want to win easily. They want it the easy way. They're circling around. A lot of their play is on the periphery because they don't want to win the hard way. They don't want to go to the net. They're going to take licks in front of the net. They don't want to go there. That's what I see. That's not what the media, is telling me. I watch every game. That's what I see. So when I hear all these stupid puck possession numbers and all that, you could possess the puck for as long as you fucking want. It doesn't matter, though, if you're not going to the net and crashing the net. This is NHL level talent. They're going to compete hard as well. If the goalie can see it, chances are the goalie's going to stop it, right? It's beyond frustrating. Where the hell are the core players? It's the same story as in the playoffs. Your 3rd and 4th line can't be the ones to get it done for you. Your big boys got to carry the load. The rest are just complementary pieces, especially in a cap system, and especially the way the Maple Leafs are built. They're built top heavy, paying those big 4 forwards that kind of money. They're the ones that have to produce. If they don't, we're fucked. And right now, they're not producing, and it shows. But to me, the biggest concern is the lack of the lack of attention to detail in the D zone. It looks like they lack a team identity at this point, which is very concerning. That to me is extremely concerning. No team identity, and it looks like they've abandoned their team structure. I thought last year they did a great job developing team structure and adhering to the team structure, and they looked organized defensively, very few mistakes. Every man was there to support each other. The forwards were back supporting the defense. How many odd man rushes were there against Pittsburgh? And then, you can actually go back to the San Jose game as well. The amount of odd man rushes and chances, it's inexcusable. I know they're fighting it offensively right now. I know they are. But if you're fighting it offensively, you can't start taking all these chances because you're going to give up chances going the opposite way. And it's counterintuitive, really, right? Because then the puck ends up in your net, and then you're fighting it with your confidence. So adhere to your fucking team structure and stick to it. Stick to your game. You're supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender, and this is the way you play. To me, it is super disappointing, but I have to say, as pissed off as I am, I'm really not that surprised. And why am I not that surprised? Because how many times have we seen this before with this group? And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it. And I've kind of cooled on this point, thinking about it today a little bit, and letting my emotions subside a little bit. But honestly, after that Pittsburgh game, it looked to me like it's the start of the team sort of tuning out the coach. We saw that with Mike Babcock. They started to tune him out and they got away from their systematic play. And that's kind of what I saw on Saturday night. And it kind of made me get a little bit worried. And then I saw Sheldon's post-game presser, and his face looked shocked. He looked like a coach or a deer caught in headlights, a coach that was scared. And I thought he sort of tap danced around being harsh on his players and really criticizing them where they should have been criticized. These players know better. They're not rookie players anymore. So like 5th, 6 years in the league. Grow up. You're supposed to lead this team now. There's no more Patrick Marleaus and Joe Thorntons that are leading the way. You're leading the way. And just to me, it's an embarrassment right now. To me, they're playing for the name on the back of the sweater and not the crest on the front. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah, I think honestly, and I could be wrong here, but I really think that Sheldon Keefe's great record is magnified by the fact that we played 56 games against Canadian competition, which, let's be real, is probably one of the lowest in the league. And 2, it was a fresh start after Babcock. The players were sick of him and he just let them play. I don't think he has the experience to really shove it in their face and say, wake up. I really don't. I could be wrong there, but it just seems like he doesn't know what to say anymore, or do, for that matter.
Can I jump in there real quick just before? Because
yeah.
I apologize to Brett. I know Brett wants to comment on this as well, but I honestly, I don't put it on Sheldon Keefe. I think Sheldon Keefe is a good coach. He's shown at every level that he can win, and he knows what it takes to win. It can't always be the coach's fault.
Right.
What is the common denominator here, right? The common denominator is the same core players, because all the other pieces are interchangeable and they've changed year to year, right? They've brought in new third liners, new fourth liners, new complementary pieces. The common denominator here is the core 4 forwards, and they continually let us down. It's honest to God. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Miracle, the Disney movie Miracle. Herb Brooks, Kurt Russell plays fantastic Herb Brooks in that movie. And right off the bat, when they're in the war room, the management for the U.S. team are discussing, how is Herb going to put this team together, because their team of NHL All-Stars, the U.S. NHL All-Stars, couldn't beat one of their college or university level teams at the time. So how are they going to beat the Soviets? And Herb Brooks, played by Kurt Russell in that movie, says to the management team, I don't plan on taking a team full of all-stars, because a team full of all-stars only wants to use their talent and talent alone to win. And you can never win with talent alone. Honest to God. And I'm not just saying it because it's we're on a 4-game losing streak here. I've seen enough of this team. We've seen this team over and over and over. Why would they change? They are who they are. And the most frustrating part for me as a Leaf fan is they are so highly talented and so highly skilled. And I think we've all watched a number of really, really bad Leafs teams with hardly any skill on them over the years. Dare I say it, I would almost rather watch one of those teams, because I knew what we were in for. We didn't have the talent and skill, but at least they worked on a night-to-night basis. They just couldn't win because they didn't have the talent. This fucking pathetic team, this group, refuses to put in the same effort. And these nonchalant comments after the games, I love Austin Matthews. You guys know I love Austin Matthews. What Leaf fan doesn't love Austin Matthews? He's the face of our franchise. But some of these nonchalant, almost laugh it off comments, snarky remarks to the media about, the world's not ending. We're not, this isn't the end of the world. We're not talking about necessarily, it's not the end of the world. The fans and the media aren't going on you because it's a 4-game losing streak, not just a 4-game losing streak. It's because you continue to play like this year after year after year, and you've shown no signs of progression. You're the same fucking team over and over and over again. And I think they're coddled, and I think they feel fucking entitled, to be quite honest with you. It really pisses me off. There's so many examples of that. And this uniform policy change is just yet another example. I'm not necessarily bothered that they're able to come in and dress casual. I really don't care if they're in a suit or whatever. But if that was that important to the players, to me, if I was Kyle Dubas, I would have said, I have no problem in allowing you guys to do this. But before we implement this change, I want results. I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna dangle this carrot. You guys show me that you can commit, and then I'll give you this. But instead, He hands it over again, just like he hands over the big fucking contracts. And it's the same shit time after time after time. I have very little faith in this team in the long run. I know they're going to pull it together because they have so much talent. I know they're going to pull out of this. We all know they're going to pull out of this. They're too good not to, right? But in the end, this is who they are. Why would we think any different? That's all they've shown. That's the frustrating part. So we're going to go through this entire season. Hopefully they make the playoffs. They can find a level of consistency and make the playoffs. But boys, this is going to happen all over again.
Just the way it goes. Brett, what are your thoughts on it? Because it, like I said, it's like banging your head against a wall, but
It's really sad that they have all this talent in the world, and they do. I'm not going to diminish their talent, and they can't put it together. It's extremely frustrating that you're not your best players, but the players that come to work every single night, and it's a small sample size, I get it, and there are times when they're off, but it's very, very frustrating night after night that the hardest working players on this hockey club are your third and your fourth line guys, whether they're being paid $800,000 or they've been in this league for 10 or 15 years and this is their last hurrah and they're pushing 40 or whatever. It's really frustrating to watch a guy like Jason Spezza break his back. And the look on his face the other night when he came off the ice, it's disheartening. It's disgusting. These guys that are under 25 years of age do not understand what professional hockey is all about. I don't care how long they've been in the league. I really don't. They don't come to the rink with any heart, any dedication. Like Danny said, yeah, you know what? The league or the team has relaxed the dress code. Who gives a shit? Because, yeah, you know what? You can look good off the ice, but until you look good on the ice, I really don't want to pay attention to you. I really, really don't want to pay attention to you. You're making the guys that make $800,000, whoever they are, look real good right now on so many levels. Performance on the ice, morally, ethically, like it's just and you know what? I'm hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth, and I feel like they're not making any sense. But I'm fed up and I'm frustrated. How am I fed up and frustrated after 7 games?
yeah, and it's the saying you don't know what you've got till it's gone really reminds me of this team because you see in All or Nothing how devastated they are when they lose, but they're only devastated after they lose. They don't put in the effort to not lose. Like as stupid as that sounds, it's like guys, like you have all the talent. Like there's no gelling either. Like even Brody, Muzzin, Riley look out of sorts. Like everybody just looks lost, and I don't know even what to say. And Mitch Marner, like we praised him last week, saying, "Oh, he's going to get going." He still has 1 point. Like in 7 games, he's got 1 point, and I thought getting a stick in the face, being all bloody, would make him pissed and go in there, and he didn't change. He just looks like a third, fourth line player out there, and he like the amount of times I've seen him stop at the blue line and make people go offside in this first 7 games is astounding to me. Like the guy is one of the best guys with the puck when he's on, but right now, like I can't trust Mitch Marner or Tavares as far as I can throw them, to be honest. Like I don't know.
And even to that point, like Willie had a great start. His first 3 games, William Nylander looked fantastic. We were praising William Nylander, and all of a sudden, Willie now looks like he's fighting it confidence-wise. He doesn't look like the same player. He looks tentative. How many shots last night did he fan on in that game? he had some grade A scoring opportunities. I think I'd count at least 2 or 3, and he fanned on the puck. Now they're all fighting it confidence-wise. You touched on it with TJ Brody. TJ Brody is usually our most reliable defenseman, and he's fighting it. Something is going on in that dressing room, and you know what? If I had to put my fingers on it, I swear to you. And again, I've never played pro level hockey. I've never played hockey at a high level, but I watch every single Leaf game every single year since I was like 16 years old. This is not new to me. So I go by my eye test, right? I'd like to think that I know quite a bit about hockey after watching it for this long. Those leaders, your leaders have to lead by example. They're the ones that should drive the play. It can't be your third and fourth liners that drive the play. Your leaders have to lead and produce, and that will settle the rest of the group down confidence-wise. But right now, they need to just adhere to their team structure and keep it basic and simple. Even if you try and win a game 2-1 and grind out a win, build some fucking confidence. How fragile is this group, boys? Like, I know Spezza was quoted today in practice, and he was asked by the media, do you think this group is fragile? What the fuck is he going to say? He's not going to come out and tell you they're fragile. Like, what player would ever say that? He's not going to come out and say that. Of course they're fucking fragile. Every time they face adversity, they usually choke. We've seen it in every playoff elimination game. When they face adversity, they fold like a cheap fucking suit. That's who they are. It's in their identity. And I truly believe, like, honestly, guys, and you know me, like, I love Mitch Marner. I think the world of Mitch Marner as a hockey player and the talent. But honest to God, like, this whole stretch here has really opened up my eyes to say something has to change with that core. And until something changes with the core, until you bring in players that are drivers, and again, they can't be third or fourth liners. Like, we all love Zach Hyman, and I'm not saying Zach Hyman's necessarily a third or fourth liner. Like, Zach Hyman can play in the top 6 with skilled players like he is now with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and all those guys, much like he did in Toronto. He's a great complementary piece. But it has to be one of your top players, your core players. I'll give you a perfect example. Look in Boston. Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand are the fucking drivers. And you can throw Charlie McAvoy in there now because he's sort of jumped on ship and he's now a leader on that team. They drive that bus. They work their ass off in practice. They bring it to every single game. They lead. If they don't play well, that team, chances are, is not going to win. But they're the straw that stirs the drink. On our team, it seems to be Jason Spezza that's the one stirring the drink. John looks flat right now. JT looks flat. Marner has no confidence. Matthews isn't playing bad, to be quite honest with you, to be fair with you. But whoever's on his wing, like last night it was Willie. Willie had no confidence. He's fighting his confidence. So when Willie's not confident, how's he going to get the puck to Austin? And when Mitch is on Austin's wing, Mitch is fighting it confidence-wise. So how is he going to get the puck to Austin? And then poor John, he had a couple of looks last night. I think he hit the post twice again last night. Right now, they're just fighting it. They're going to get it back. I know they're going to get it back, but to me, these are warning signs. And I hope Kyle Dubas is really watching this stretch, because I keep saying it, but this is who they are. They have to change that core. They will not win if they don't change the core. These problems will just come up again and again and again and again. And when they come up in the playoffs and they falter again, you're going to ruin these guys' confidence. We already see the number it's done on Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner looks like a different player. Mitch Marner is a way better player than the way he's playing. Mitch Marner should be an elite winger in the league. He's a top 5 winger in the National Hockey League. He is not playing like that. He is not playing like that at all. I think he's really been affected by the media and the criticism from the fan base. And, the fans are entitled to that, right? And you're paid as such. You got to produce. That's the nature of the business. But I don't know, boys. Like, I'm very frustrated at this group. I don't know what else to say. Like, if they tune Keefe out and they don't get back to their team structure and find their team identity soon, this season might be a write-off. But I do feel like they're too talented enough, and they're going to find their way. It's going to come back, though. What can I say?
Yeah, and there is 75 games left, but Once you start losing too many in a row, even this early, we said this about the Blue Jays. It's early. Yeah, well, until you approach game 30 and you're saying that game 40, 50, 60, once you hit 50, usually if you're way out, it's too late. Like even 30 games left, we've seen it in the NHL, you don't come back from that. So they need to right the ship now. Like I think tomorrow night in Chicago, that this is it's judgment day for those guys. I think, like you said, Taves out, Kane out. It is eerily similar to Pittsburgh, but if they let it happen again to a depleted team, then I don't know what to say. Brett, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm concerned, but and I don't want to be like this, but this is the makeup of who I've become. I'm empathetic in a sense, and I'm empathetic with reasoning. Danny, you talked about JT. JT has not looked good at all this year. I still think he's probably got a lot of the yips based on what happened last season in the playoffs. That's not an excuse, but I think it's a reality right now. I think, and I hope it doesn't take him 15 or 20 games to get it back. But I think he's got the yips. I think he's afraid to get involved because of what happened last year in the playoffs. Mitch, and we haven't talked about it yet, but Mitch got hit in the chicklets the other night, whether it was by a puck or a stick, somebody's ass, shoulder, elbow. I don't know. I don't care. I'm hoping that he responds positively to that and that he's pissed off and he comes out and he changes his game and he's hitting everybody. It's not going to happen, but a guy can only hope. Because that is the only way, in my opinion, that he's going to get things back. If he starts hitting people, because he's a ghost out there. You might as well just play 5-on-4 when he's on the ice because he's invisible out there. You touched on Willie Nylander. It's funny. Last week I thought that Willie was the best player on the team. I still think he is probably the best player right now. Spets is giving him a run for his money, but it's so hard to watch the core four and have an understanding what may have to change either going into the deadline. And again, I can't believe we're talking about deadline or next year yet already. But something has to change. And I don't want to spoil anybody's fun right now, but I don't think you're going to take anybody from that core four and trade them. I think that if you want to make a change, you're going to have to trade Riley at the deadline because he's not coming back next year anyway. He's going to want $8 million. $8 million. And you know what? He's worth it. He's totally worth it. But he's not worth it on this team. He's not worth it on this hockey club.
I disagree with Riley being worth 8. I don't disagree that somebody won't pay him that. But Morgan Riley, like the person, he seems like a really good leader, Brett. But to me, his play on the ice, like if I'm paying a number one defenseman $8 million, right? Because when you pay a defenseman $8, $9, $10 million, you're telling me, you're telling the fans, you're telling your team that is your horse. And Morgan Riley is not a shutdown defenseman. Morgan Riley is not a good power play defenseman. We've seen him. The power play is fucking god awful. Again, we haven't even touched on that. The power play is fucking horrendous. We'll get into that, but I don't think Morgan Riley is worth 8. In my opinion, and I know he's going to get it because someone will pay him. I think he's going to Seattle. I think he's going somewhere out west, either Western Canada or to Seattle. In my opinion, he's from Vancouver. I could see him fitting right into Seattle there. He's a good player. I think he's a top 4 defenseman for sure. Is he a 1? Definitely not. Is he a 2? I don't think so. I think he's a really good 3. To me, he's like a $6 to $7 million defenseman, 7 at max. He just doesn't give you what you need. Morgan's strengths, breaking out the puck, and he's a really good skater, and he can pass the puck. He can't shoot, and he's not a very good defender. Not the worst, but he's not a very good defender. If I'm paying a defenseman $8 million, you better be able to fucking defend and shut down the opposition's best forwards. Instead, that task gets left to Jake Muzzin and Justin Hall every single time. And there's a reason, because Morgan Rielly is not a number one defenseman. So people can pay Morgan Rielly whatever they want. And Brett, I do agree with you. I think that would probably be the start. And I don't even know if we'll see how this goes. Again, I think they're going to right the ship, but I think that might be the first piece you move is Morgan Rielly.
You have to.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with
Absolutely
you. And
have to.
It's the easiest piece to move too, right? Because like you mentioned, he's gone at the end of the season anyway. I think they're grooming Rasmus Sandin to play up with TJ Brody for next year. That's just my take on it, unless Dubas has some plan of, assuming he's still here, some plan of addressing it in free agency with somebody else sort of like TJ Brody and go with like sort of a defensive minded core. But yeah, to me, they have to do something because the same group is going to produce the exact same fucking results.
Let me ask you both a question. We're talking about retooling that defense and making them a little bit more defensive. If by some sort of grace that happens and they do end up being a little bit more defensive, does that shore up the top four? Does that help them out a little bit?
Like shore up the top four defense?
No. I'm talking about our core four.
No, it doesn't.
Is it a completely different issue then?
I watch every single game. Not saying you guys don't. I watch every fucking hockey game, every Leaf game. I like these players as individuals. Like I think Mitch Marner is immensely talented. Austin Matthews is a superstar. I love John Tavares and what he's about and the leader that he is. And he's from the city. And when he's on, he's a great player. And William Nylander is a young, exciting player. But all four of them don't possess that inner drive and work ethic in their game. They rely mostly on their skill. You could argue John at times is a little bit different. I'll give John a pass there. John usually works hard. His skill set is diminishing as he gets a little bit older. But the William Nylander, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner, those guys are drivers for this team. And I find way too often they believe that they are so immensely talented that they don't have to put in the work consistently. And I really believe, I truly believe in my heart of hearts, that is the issue. If you like, just for example, and again, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm just going to throw a player out there. Okay. Like say you took away Mitch Marner and you brought in a player like Brady Tkachuk, and you still had another, $3 million to spend on another forward. But Brady Tkachuk brings a different element, right? He brings a little bit of nastiness, and you're going to get compete every single night. You're going to get that compete. Mitch doesn't always bring that compete. That's the problem, right? That's what you lack. You have the talent, but you don't bring the compete. If you can combine both, we're fucking laughing. But the common denominator with those players is they don't do it on a night-to-night basis, and they can't dig in. When the pressure is on and there's adversity on them, especially in the playoffs, they fold like a cheap suit. They do not want to take their licks. They do not want to do it the hard way. I fully believe they think they are so talented that they can get by with their skill alone. And why wouldn't they? They're surrounded by talent. So they're going, fuck, we can outskill this team. No, you can't. No, you won't. You might be able to get away with it in the regular season from time to time when you're still adhering to your structure. But in the end, it'll never work. It hasn't. They can't win a playoff series. I'm not making it up. I'm not trying to be, super negative on the group. That's the facts. Why do you think they're the laughing stock of the NHL? This team is the laughing stock of the NHL. And that's why, because they're a bunch of choke artists. Everyone knows it. They're lacking that compete level, that consistent compete. And it can't be from your Jason Spetzes, Wayne Simmons, David Camps, you name it, your third and fourth line guys. It has to be the guys that drive this team. and it has to be the core, and they just do not possess it. It's not in their DNA. That's why they need to change. That's the reason.
Yeah, and going back to the question, I think bolstering our defense would help, but like Danny keeps saying, your core forwards still have to do it. Like, yeah, it helps when your third and fourth line are scoring a goal every other game, like whatever, or at least one of the three on each line scoring every game. But like, I thought when Matthews scored last night, like I was so jacked when he scored. Like I thought this is it. Like that's gonna just it's gonna help. Like you saw the relief on Austin Matthews' face with his celly there, like screaming, like out of basically frustration, as far as I'm concerned. He gets a milestone 200th goal. I thought, okay, here we go. Floodgates are opening. And I really thought that could be what did it. And it should have been, but it wasn't. And it was the same thing last night. Like we were discussing, like I was in denial last night saying, oh, we're not playing that bad. Well, yeah, we are playing bad, just not as bad as we have been, but it's still the nearly team. I've said it so much this year, like nearly is not good enough. It's just not. At the end of the day, nearly does not get you results.
And to touch on that point about Brett's original question, sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked. I'm just so pissed off at this group. I have to vent my frustrations. Again, Clay, you mentioned it. Defense would help, but honest to God, like go back to last season. It wasn't the defense. They played great team defense. It wasn't the defense that cost them. They could not score goals, right? Why couldn't they score goals? I just mentioned it. I just touched on it, right? Their core players could not produce when it matters. Why? Because in the playoffs, it becomes hard and it requires you taking licks in front of the net and going to the net, scoring dirty, greasy goals. They can't do that. It's not in their DNA. They want to play those cross through the legs, cross crease passes, tap it in on the other side, exciting riverboat pond hockey. That's what they tried to do this past playoff series. You can't do that. Teams tighten up defensively. It's not there. It's not available. Every playoff series, though, that's what they try to do. It's not going to be there. Keith touched on it in the Amazon series, right? If you remember, it was during the regular season on that Amazon series, and he said, I'm really concerned that we're not scoring enough garbage goals. It was sort of paraphrasing. But he was saying, because in the playoffs, those are the types of goals you have to score. He touched on that in that series. And it's the same thing again. They want to play on the periphery because you get hit when you go to the front of the net. It can't be your Michael Buntings and Nick Ritchies that are the only ones going to those areas. Your big player, your core players have to go there, and they won't. You can watch it in the regular season, and it only gets worse in the playoffs. It's not the defense. For anyone who thinks, oh, we need to trade one of these guys to get a defenseman, it's not the defense. Their defense was actually pretty good. Right now, they're getting away from their structure, so it looks horrible. But last year, it was not their defense. And I think we can all agree last year was probably our best opportunity in our lifetimes, other than like early, 90, 92, 93 opportunities there with those teams. Probably the best opportunity in our lifetime to try and win a cup, and they could actually compete for it because their defense was actually at, it was above NHL average. And no, they couldn't score. And there's a reason why they couldn't score. I keep harping on it, but I'm telling you, that is the true problem. They don't put in the work ethic. And Babcock even said it when he was here. There's so many Babcockisms, but if you don't put your work ahead of your skill, he would say, you'll never win in the end. Your skill won't have a chance to shine. And you could possess the fucking puck all you want. You can go around in circles all night in the opposition zone. They're happy for you to play out on the periphery and throw pucks from the point. Nobody goes to the net. There's nobody in front of the net. Goalie's going to stop it. Easy rebound. They're off the other way. And then you turn the fucking puck over and there's 2-on-1s. And then it's in the back of your net. Now you're fighting it confidence-wise. Figure it the fuck out, boys. Like, these guys are a sorry bunch of losers, in my opinion. To me right now, they're playing for the name on the back of their jerseys. They want their stats. They're playing for the names on the back. instead of that beautiful crest on the front. And they need to be reminded, they should be proud to play for that original 16 and what that logo is about. When Lou and Brendan came into the fold with Mike Babcock and they tried to establish that, they're now getting away from that. They're no longer playing for that crest. They're playing for the names on the back. And that's a huge issue.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you could do us a huge solid and share this on whatever socials you use, we would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you like it. Tell everyone, tell all your friends, tell your family. We would really appreciate it. And on behalf of Bretzky and GM Hawtin, I am your host, Clay. Thank you so much again, and we'll catch you next time.